Thank you so much indeed, everyone, for joining. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Wakimalo in Abuja. Let's begin by letting you know what happened today. A former Emir of Kano, Muhammad Sanusi II, has been speaking on the state of the economy. And today he has brought his mind on the economy and what he thinks about the president serving at the same time as the Minister of Petroleum Resources. Take a listen to it.
Advise that this idea of the president being petroleum minister is not a good idea. The last president was Minister of Petroleum for 8 years. When I was governor of Central Bank, we had a petroleum minister. So when I talked about NNPC, I could attack Dizani. Now nobody can talk about petroleum because 8 years, if you talk, you're attacking the president. We need that buffer. Somebody has to be there. So a minister has to be there who is held accountable by Nigerians. Why is NNPC not able to bring in dollars? I'm sorry, this is the question that cost me my job. I will continue asking this question until NNPC is fixed or until I die. Where are the dollars? We need to shine light on NNPC. The finance minister cannot tell you that today, this is how many barrels of oil that we produce and exported. You can only rely on NNPC telling him. Those barrels are revenue. They belong to finance. We've been talking about this for 10 years. We are no longer paying subsidies. So where are the dollars? Before it was under recovery. Now we don't have under recovery. Where is the money? And by the way, let me advise that this idea of the president being petroleum minister is not a good idea. When I was governor of Central Bank, we had a petroleum minister. So when I talked about NNPC, I could attack Dizani. Now nobody can talk about petroleum because 8 years, if you talk, you're attacking the president. We need that buffer. Somebody has to be there. So a minister has to be there who is held accountable by Nigerians.
All right. That is a former Emir and a former CBN governor, Muhammad Sanusi. Well, we'll bring you up to speed with what is happening in other parts of the country, and of course, then I will let you know what the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, in what looks like a defiance on some of those who are asking for a seat, who are asking that he should exit the seat as the Minister of the FCT. I will let you know what he said earlier today. And of course, and I will introduce to you my very special guest on the program, an elder statesman, and who understand the issues of the Nigerian economy and the Nigerian state. Perhaps one of those who have tested the waters the most in terms of the political, the economy, the civil service, and all other view. We'll be getting a lot of insight in what is happening in Nigeria today. Well, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
The Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, has assured that the federal government is determined to fully probe the bomb accident by the Nigerian army that occurred at Tudumbiri village in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State. The VP vows that anyone found culpable for the incident will be punished. He also pledged that the victims of the incident will be supported by the federal government. The Vice President gave the assurance when he visited the victims of the attack at the Barau Diko Teaching Hospital in Kaduna State capital.
It's already directed by Mr. President. An investigation is being conducted with a view to preventing a reoccurrence of the incident, and we expect a report to be submitted within the shortest possible time.
Meanwhile, the Kaduna State government has distributed relief materials to the victims of last Saturday bomb attack at Tudumbiri village in Igabi local government area of the state. The relief materials were delivered to the victims at the Barau Diko Teaching Hospital, as it's expected to provide temporary succor to hospitalized victims and those displaced owing to the bomb mishap. The Kaduna State government has taken over the hospital bills of the affected victims and established a 24-hour kitchen service to provide food for the hospitalized victims and their families. The chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, says the current tax system in Nigeria is unsustainable as it is conduit to siphon the nation's revenue, which has led to the country's borrowing to finance its budgets year after year. Mr. Oyedele, who was a guest speaker at the 2023 National Advertising Conference organized by the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria, ARCAN, in Abuja, however, asserted that reforms to sanitize the system are underway to ensure revenue generation is maximized. The Coalition of Civil Society Organizations for Democracy is concerned over plans by some persons to occupy the Supreme Court ahead of the judgment of the Kano State governorship election. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the group appealed to justices of the Supreme Court to resist every act of intimidation while expressing confidence in the ability of the Apex Court justices to adjudicate without fear or favor. The Zamfara State government has announced a successful recovery of approximately 50 operational vehicles purportedly taken away by the immediate past governor of the state. The chief press secretary to the Zamfara State governor, Sani Sambo, explained that the vehicle recoveries occurred after the Friday's verdict of the Federal High Court, Sokoto Division. The Lagos State High Court sitting in Ikeja has sentenced Wahab Hamid, a ward leader of the All Progressives Congress in the Surulere local government area of the state, to a 1-year jail term or in the alternative a fine of 1 million naira after convicting him on a 2-count charge of conspiracy and bribery. At his arraignment on Wednesday, the AFCC prosecutor Samuel Daji told the court that on February 25, 2023, the defendant conspired with one Shegun Ijitola, who is still at large, to corruptly pay bribe to voters during the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections.
Well, then, you've been served with your political roundup stories, and you are now up to speed. Let's tell you that the Minister of the FCT, Mr. Nyesom Wike, has today responded to protests seeking his removal from office. Despite facing protests, the Minister of the FCT fearlessly inaugurated the resurfacing of 49 roads in Asokoro, Wuse, and Maitama areas of Abuja. It's like a defiant move coming after demonstrators gathered at the National Assembly gate earlier in the week, asking Wike must go. Take a listen to the FCT minister.
Somebody told me that there are some people who were carrying placards. Because, frankly speaking, I don't have time to even see that. I was busy. I don't want to be distracted. I want to be focused and deliver on the mandate Mr. President has given to us. But one thing you must also understand, that this is democracy. So many people are entitled to their opinions. But what is important is your opinion must be in line of what is good for the people of the FCT. We can't continue to do the same thing, the same way, and expect to achieve different results. One of the big things about leadership is that you must be firm, you must be bold, you must be courageous to take a decision. And we have taken a decision to make sure our people are happy with this administration. We have taken a decision to make sure we do the best for the people as mandated by Mr. President. In policies you make, it may not favor so many people, but what is important is the generality of the people, not few people who benefit at the detriment of others.
Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike there, responding to the Wike Moscow protesters in Abuja. Let's now get our attention to our speaker tonight on the program, who is a former secretary to the government and a former finance minister and someone who has run for the presidency of this country at least twice, is His Royal Majesty Oba Samuel Oluyemi Falae, the Oluwabo of Iluabo and the Baba Oba of Akure Kingdom. His Royal Majesty, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight, and thank you so much for sparing time to be with us on the program.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much indeed. I guess it will be a good point to begin the conversation tonight because, frankly speaking, I will take you around a lot of issues because I know your experience can accommodate and you have the capacity to be able to give your view. On one hand, and as an elder statesman, on the other hand, as an intellectual that you are and with your experience, I mean, depth of experience in politics and in governance. So let me begin with the issue of economy, which I know, and some time ago, you as a Minister of Finance, you have a hang of what is going on, the capacity of Nigeria to what we could do. And you are at a minister at a point where we were proud to be producing some things in Nigeria, generating revenue locally. But here we are today. From your own assessment, Your Royal Majesty, give us an assessment of the major danger you see in this economy and how you think the Tinubu government can be able to surmount it.
Well, we should thank you very much indeed for giving me this opportunity to have a conversation with you on some of the economic issues that are important in our country today. In my time as Minister of Finance, the challenge there was the huge external debt that Nigeria had accumulated, not through formal borrowing, but through what I can call sleepwalking into a debt crisis, a trading debt crisis. We had imported, by we, I mean Nigerian businesses and governments had imported a lot of foreign goods for which we could not pay. And that crystallized into a huge external debt. And of course, that had an immediate impact on the foreign currency, the naira, and found it extremely difficult to pay for imports, to even open letters of credit for essential goods, for drugs, for wheat, for bread, for books, raw materials, etc. And unfortunately at that time, the price of oil dropped to as low as $10 a barrel. So we had it from all directions. But we were able to manipulate, to navigate the situation through a series of measures, which people collectively called the Structural Adjustment Program, which had both positive and negative impacts on the economy. But in my opinion, it was a very, very bitter medicine, which did not kill the patient. On the contrary, it gradually brought sanity back to the country. What do I mean by that? We were able to renegotiate our external debt to a level where we could start paying without sacrificing our ability to import essential goods. We were able to encourage Nigerians to produce other items outside of oil to earn foreign exchange, and we were able to achieve a level of economic development and diversification, even in that crisis period. And by the way, as of August 1990, when I ceased to be Minister of Finance, the exchange rate, I want Nigerians to listen carefully, as of the date I left office, it was 5 naira 50 kobo to the American dollar. And that was when we were screaming about SAP. 5 naira 50 kobo. Not 55.50, not 550, 5 naira 50 kobo. And we could have stabilized it at that level. But I left office in August 1990 to go into politics. Thereafter, I will not know, I cannot explain to you what happened, but the Naira took a nosedive. And since then, it's been in free fall, unfortunately. And the consequences of that are that imports have become extremely expensive. And unfortunately, Nigeria is very highly import dependent. We depend on imports, not only of capital goods, machinery, and spare parts, and raw materials for manufacturing. We're dependent on imports for even food, essential food like bread, and cooking oil, and medicines, and books, and all materials. So once the exchange rate is not right, the Naira is weak, then automatically we're importing a lot of inflation to the country. What used to cost $1 when Naira was 100, if it still costs $1 today, then the price in Naira is about 2,000 Naira. So the devaluation of the Naira is the main cause of the high level of inflation today in our country. And I suspect that the scarcity of Naira, which everybody feels, including myself, I suspect it's an attempt by government and the central bank to manage this inflation. If that is so, then I'm afraid they have to think again, because you see, the high level of prices, inflation, is not being caused essentially by excess liquidity. It is not what you call in economic balance, it's not a demand pull inflation that we have. It is a cost push inflation. The cost of imports of raw materials, of machinery and spare parts, the increased cost in those items is what is causing substantially the inflation we are facing today. So trying to mop up liquidity, in my view, is not the right thing to do. There may be other reasons for making currency, the Naira scarce, but surely the reason should not be an attempt to manage what is essentially a cost-push inflation through what I call a traditional solution to demand inflation.
Your Royal
so
Majesty,
if you ask me, that's what I will tell you. We need to manage inflation the right way.
Let me jump in quickly. And you when you were talking about...
yes, that's my view.
Okay, great. So
yes.
When you were talking about how much we are import reliant, and it just comes to mind when the news broke earlier today and the reports we were getting about an American firm, Procter & Gamble, that is planning to dissolve its ground operations here in Nigeria with an estimated 5,000 people connected in terms of employment and job to that company. And we now only rely on imports of their products into Nigeria. And looking at the climate, local production climate in Nigeria, what would you be saying to the government of the day if a P&G, for example, is dissolving, and this is not one, this is one of several that we are saying, and the government, the president, for example, had gone to several countries trying to attract FDI, but this is happening right now. How do we stem this kind of scenario?
Well, unfortunately, manufacturing industry is almost dead in our country. I'm very sad to observe that because of a multiplicity of the problems that we have. Because unless we revive and revitalize and resuscitate manufacturing industry, our dependence on imports will continue, and imported inflation will continue to be a major problem. And the way to revive manufacturing industry is well known to policymakers. The first thing is that power, which is the motive force, which is, in fact, you can take power consumption per head in an economy as a good proxy for the level of development in that economy. Our power supply, both the quantum and the distribution and the reliability and the price are all unsatisfactory. And this is very sad because when I was still in service, way back in 1980, when we prepared the third National Development Plan, we had projected that Nigeria should have 6,000 megawatts of electricity by 1985. I repeat that, we projected that Nigeria should have 6,000 megawatts of electricity by 1985. 1985, that's 43 years ago. Now, if we had done that at that time, I'm sure by now we'll have maybe 150,000 megawatts or 100,000 megawatts. But unfortunately, that plan project was never implemented. And today, I doubt whether we have even 5,000 megawatts. And as long as your power supply is inadequate, it's unreliable, it's expensive, manufacturing industry is going to suffer. And production of products will be very expensive because self-generated power is very expensive. Solar energy may come to the rescue, but the stage of solar technological development is such that solar energy is still expensive. I hope a day will come when solar energy becomes very cheap and available to everybody. But power is, to me, is the most important single factor affecting manufacturing in Nigeria. Of course, there are other factors, like the infrastructure, like low per capita income among the population, because after what is the market? I have what I call Falae formula, M plus M equals M. In ordinary algebra, M plus M should be 2M. But in my own economic algebra, I say M plus M equals M, meaning men plus money equals market. Now we have plenty of men and women in Nigeria, but the money in our hands is very small. So our M plus M is a very small M, very small market. So there's a need, therefore, to generate employment. Unemployed people have little or no income. Employment generation will expand our market, will strengthen the market, and make it worthwhile for manufacturers to produce for this market. So, in the first place, power generation, number one, employment generation, number two. Of course, almighty insecurity. Many of the old manufacturers have left the country for the reasons I've just mentioned. Power supply, and in more recent times, insecurity. So these are three critical things. There are so many others.
But yeah, but I'd like to, I mean,
that's for three.
Sorry, your Royal Majesty,
three things that must be done to revive manufacturing. Those are the three: power, employment generation, and security.
So, but I look at government policies, because policies of government also will help drive. Yes, I was going to say policy of government on one hand, because the government activities and their policy is supposed to help drive the private sector into manufacturing. Government may not be able to do the manufacturing itself, but if you look at the budget that is supposed to be the driver of government activities and expenditure, one may be able to glean or learn how the government wants to operate. Does this budget give you a hope? The president called it a budget of renewed hope in the manufacturing, for example, that you have talked about, and in the kind of suffering of the Nigerian masses. Does the budget of 2024, as proposed and presented by President Tinubu to the Nigerian legislature, does it give the kind of hope that can help to stir up the economy?
It certainly is pointing in the right direction. For example, I was happy to note that debt service is not consuming such a large proportion of total revenue as it used to consume. That's a good thing. Secondly, the elimination of the subsidy has left more resources at the disposal of government, which government is now trying to deploy to address the problems that are militating against manufacturing development. So I see this as a good foundation laying for industrial revival and development in Nigeria. But many more things need to be done, those that I've mentioned. Also, I'm happy to note that the government is now signed an agreement with the German government to make Siemens come here and generate 12,000 megawatts of electricity. If that is done, it's going to be a very big boost for economic development in Nigeria. Because without power, there's very little that you can go. It's not just huge industries and medium manufacturers that will benefit. Even the ordinary person, the welder by the roadside, the pepper grinder in the market will benefit tremendously. And I believe that if power is available and it's stable and it's affordable, I believe that Nigerians are so enterprising that they will use it, even in rural areas, to produce a lot of agro-based industries. So that President Tinubu is boldly going into power generation is a most welcome development. That he has reduced the proportion of revenue devoted to debt service is most welcome. That he's been able to eliminate the so-called subsidy is most welcome. But I'd like to comment briefly on this subsidy question. My own approach to the matter, my belief is that Nigeria's problem with fuel and its price will be substantially resolved when we are able to repair and recommission all our refineries and then sell them to companies that know how to run refineries. We should not try to run them ourselves, because if we try to do so, politics will intervene and we will mismanage them. I'm sorry to say this. So we repair them, we sell them to those who can manage refineries, and then they will use those refineries to refine Nigerian crude oil and sell to us here in Nigeria. That reduces the influence of the dollar exchange rate substantially. Not totally, but very substantially. And I'm almost certain that the day we do that, the price of fuel at the pump will come down substantially. I have no doubt at all. Provided, of course, some other thing I've always advocated happens. You price the crude you are going to refine at the refineries at the cost of production plus a reasonable margin of profit, not at the international market price of crude. That's my disagreement between me and many policymakers. They say crude oil is an international product, so you take the price in New York. Yes, but my position is that crude oil is a natural endowment of Nigeria. God himself has given it to us to help us stimulate our development. So we should consume it at the cost of production plus a reasonable profit margin for the producers, not at the international market price. That is my position.
Yeah, let me quickly ask you
this.
Yeah.
Most nations have their own natural endowment. Sorry, let me finish this one, because this is not a very popular view. The people in the industry will say this is subsidy again. No, it is subsidy in economics. That a subsidy exists when a product is sold at below the cost of production. But what I'm advocating is that you use the Nigerian crude at the cost of production plus a reasonable profit margin in the industry. So there's no economic subsidy. You can it's not subsidized, but the price of the product that to come out of it to be far less than what we're paying now.
Interesting. Well,
so because every nation should use its natural endowment to the Asians, for example, the Chinese and the Japanese are very, very, very careful with money. They have the highest saving ratios in the whole world. So what does that mean? It means they have huge savings in their countries, and therefore the cost of borrowing money, the interest rate is very low in China and Japan. And that is helping them to build their economy. That is our natural endowment. Our own endowment is crude oil. We should use it to push our development, not not by using it, not taking as a subsidized price, but at a price that will cover both cost of production plus a small margin of profit.
Your Royal Majesty, I'm due for a break, though.
The industry will disagree with this, and I'm not going to change my position either.
We are due for a break.
Yes,
but just
they will not agree with me. I too will not change my position.
I know it's a very controversial view that you have shared there. It may not be popular, but it's actually very related to the issue that the former Emir of Kano and former CBN Governor Mohammed Sanusi II raised, which I played to our viewers earlier today, about the subsidy regime, what is being under the Buhari government, was being referred to the money, if subsidy is removed, what we're getting, where are those other monies? He was asking that question, and whether or not the president should be the minister, the substantive minister of petroleum. I'd just like to get your view quickly in 60 seconds before we go on a break.
Well, I believe that there ought to be a minister for every important subject in government, including petroleum. But I know that petroleum is so important to the finances of government that no president has been able to take his hands off petroleum completely. Not Babangida, because we had the Minister for Petroleum, not Obasanjo, because we have Buhari as petroleum minister. No president has been able to take his hands off petroleum because it is so important. But conceptually, it is necessary and important to have a man of integrity called a minister to manage the petroleum industry on behalf of the president and Nigeria, so that it can be held accountable. You see, as the former Emir of Kano said, you see, people are reluctant, because out of respect for the office of president, people are reluctant to attack the policies in petroleum because they don't want to be seen to be attacking the president. But if you say a minister of petroleum, then comments and suggestions and criticisms will be more robust and be more frequent. And I think it's good for us to have a petroleum minister. Of course, all ministers report to the president. But the president doesn't have to be minister for petroleum. Okay. So that's my view. I share that with the Alhaji Sanusi.
All right. Let's take a breather. And when we return, so much more to talk about. You and your colleagues at Afenifere, you are clamoring for restructuring, and you are of the view that President Tinubu is a perfect person to make restructuring happen. I'm going to want to learn why you think so and the position of Afenifere. What will restructuring do for Nigeria? What exactly is restructuring? What is the Tinubu government doing that could change the trajectory of our nation, that a lot of people think that we urgently need some kind of economic and structural revolution? We'll be coming back to discuss further. His Royal Majesty, Chief Oluyemi Falae. We'll be right back, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. We're learning from the wisdom of a former secretary to the government of the Federation, a former finance minister, someone who ran for a presidency twice in the Third and the Fourth Republic, His Royal Majesty Oba Oluyemi Falae, the Oluobo of Iluabo, and the Baba Oba of Akure Kingdom, who is our guest tonight on the program. He's live with us from Lagos. Thank you so much, Royal Majesty, for your time tonight. I think...
it's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, if I may answer the question you asked me.
Yes, I was going to begin by on the issue of restructuring. A few weeks ago, yourself and your colleagues in Afenifere, you rose from
very well.
A meeting, and you said that you're renewing the call for restructuring. There has been divergent views on the point of restructuring, and a lot of people seem to have forgotten what that really means. Why restructuring? And you have said that Nigeria's future is bleak without restructuring. What do you mean by that?
Thank you very much indeed. Well, if there are people in Nigeria today, after all that has happened in the last 20, 30 years, who still oppose restructuring, it must be because they don't really understand what it means. What restructuring means simply is that Nigeria should return to the constitutional and political arrangement which you had at independence, which served us well. We brought prosperity and competitive development all over Nigeria, brought peace and security and stability, but which we lost as a result of military changes in the constitution, the civil war, and all that followed. Restructuring means we want to go back to that which worked for us constitutionally. Simply put, that is it. Nobody can say he doesn't want to go back to a better past that served us well, an arrangement that served us well. Restructuring means rearrange, redistribute powers and responsibilities and resources among the various levels of government and communities in Nigeria such that most people will be happy, they will have employment, they'll be safe in their country, they will have employment. So that's what restructuring means. Let's go back to that which we lost that used to be good for Nigeria. So I don't think anybody will oppose that, thus explained. But formally, what I'm saying is, and that was amply debated and discussed and agreed upon at the 2014 conference, that we must have a new constitution that will allow every state or region to have its own constitution, and that constitution will derive all its powers from the federal constitution. And every state will be supreme in those areas of the constitution assigned to that state constitution. Every state, for example, as we had in the past, will have its own police force. When I was a little boy in this country, I knew 3 police forces. The younger generation know only one, the Nigerian police force. But I knew 3, the Nigerian police force. And when Obafemi Awolowo was premier in the West, we had Western Nigeria police force under Papa Omitowoju. And then every town, I believe in the West at least and in the North, had its native authority police. So there were 3 police forces in Nigeria, maintaining peace in Nigeria. I believe when the war came, I think those other police forces its members were quickly retrained and absorbed into the army. And nobody remembered to return them to what they used to do before the war. And it's become very clear now that the Nigerian police force has been unable to give Nigeria a secure environment. So we must go back to a situation where every state or region must have its own police force. That's one. Number 2, we must devolve powers and responsibilities to the states and to the local governments where the people reside. We have over-centralized everything at the center. It is not desirable in a federation. For example, it used to be the case that only the federal government could generate electricity, only the federal government could build ports, only the federal government could have prisons. I can go on and on and on. Clearly, it has not worked. Secondly, the federal government no longer has the resources to develop oil exclusively, to generate electricity exclusively. So we must devolve powers to the states and to the local governments. Those are the things we call restructuring.
But, if I may jump in quickly just get some resources. Let me get some clarity. There must be a reason why Afenifere at this time think Bola Tinubu as Nigeria president right now is best to achieve restructuring in the manner, because I was going to ask you, what does restructuring mean for Afenifere? But now that you have explained, I mean, this requires an enormous political will. There are those who believe that the Constitution, as it is presently put together, its support. There is really no president who is in power, who will be willing to rejig or to put away the constitution in the shape and form it is right now, because it will whittle down the power of such a president. It will require a lot of political will to be able to make this happen. How and why do you think Bola Tinubu is the best man to make this happen?
I have always maintained that there must be restructuring in Nigeria. Afenifere has always maintained that most Nigerians that I met at the national conference agreed to, in fact, the report of the national conference, in my view, is a blueprint on how to restructure Nigeria. And that conference was attended by people from all over Nigeria. It was a representative sample of the Nigerian society. The young were old, the old were there. The royal fathers were there. The retired generals were there. The women were there. All classes of Nigerians were there. And we all agreed on very many issues, which when you implement, will constitute the restructuring we've been advocating. So it's not a new or strange thing that we're talking about. Now, well, we say President Bola Tinubu to find it relatively easy to implement because he was one of us. We were at the barricades together. We were tear gas together at the Yaba bus stop when Abacha terrorized this country. Before I was locked up in prison and Tinubu was driven into exile. We both suffer for these ideas so that he understands them as much as I do. And in any case, when he was governor of Lagos, he did try to implement some of those, for example, to generate electricity for the people of Lagos. That is part of the evolution I was talking about, which is a major element of restructuring. So a man who understands restructuring, who has fought for it, who has suffered for it, and who has tried to implement it to some extent when he was governor, clearly is very well prepared to understand it and to do something about it because he knows the benefits of restructuring for the whole of the country.
So are you asking him,
of the whole of the country.
Are you asking him to dust up the 2014 Confab report? Is that what you're asking? To dust up and implement it? Is that what you're asking? If that is the case, Chief Falae, just a moment, sir. My question will be, there are a lot of people who say there is going to be a lacuna, a legal, a constitutional lacuna when you're adopting such a document, because there will be a space of time where you'll be asking the question, what then exists before the new constitution? That's going to be a lot of constitutional crisis. And those who have a lot of lawyers who have put that debate.
Sorry, Sheung. Those of us at the confab, I think we are smarter than that. There were lawyers among us, there were politicians, traditional rulers, old and young. I mean, a collective group of educated, enlightened, committed, patriotic Nigerians, deep-thinking Nigerians. No, we thought about all that. No, there's no lacuna at all. For example, there are things that can be done through administrative decision by the government. There are things that can be done by legislation. For example, after all, the National Assembly set up a committee on what they call constitutional amendments. Amendments for what? To bring about the restructuring of Nigeria. So there is no problem at all, provided people understand that restructuring means a better Nigeria for all of us. There are people who are afraid of restructuring because they feel that the revenue formula that it may throw up may disadvantage some parts of the country. We thought about that. Nobody wants to follow a beggar thy neighbor policy in this country. We are brothers. We thought about that. We even proposed that I think 5% of federal revenue for a number of years should be used to assist states with solid mineral deposits to develop them so that over a reasonable period, they will become earners of substantial revenues from those resources. just as those with oil are getting large revenues now, already those with solid minerals will be assisted to develop them so that they do not suffer unacceptable revenue losses. So we gave thought to all that. And we don't have to implement all this in the same day. If you start state police tomorrow, and already, I think the present administration has said anybody who can generate electricity can do so. Anybody who can build a port can do so. In the past, those were no-go areas. You could not, only the federal government could touch anything. We have found that does not work. Give Nigeria, you see, the real rationale for restructuring is that it will unlock the ingenuity of Nigerians. It will release the energies of Nigeria, both government and private people, to become productive and become development-oriented. Nigeria has been held down by too many regulations.
Your Majesty, let me jump in quickly. I have quite a few questions more.
The creative force in the Nigerian people.
I have quite a few questions more, and I have just a little time, so I'm trying to manage time as much as possible. But I'd like you to do something for me tonight, because we do know that if some of these propositions and some of these issues that you have raised tonight, if they are implemented, our nation will be better for it. Are you making a direct call to the president tonight? And I'm wondering whether or not the president is watching you right now. If he is right now, and you're looking into the camera, Your Royal Majesty, are you able to make a direct call to the president on making sure that that restructuring happens?
Well, I hope and pray that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is watching this program. And if he is, I'll be saying to him with all humility that he should consider implementation of essential components of the 2014 report of the Confab for the benefit of all Nigerians. There are very many good things in that package, which I'm sure we will want Nigerians to benefit from. Programs that can generate employment, issues that can make power more cheaply. For example, we have a program on solar energy as part of restructuring. I'm sure President Tinubu will be more than happy to implement those things to make security more effective through state police, to make the country more better for development by encouraging various individuals to build roads and other transportation facilities. Time was when only government built roads. Now we've come to a stage where we can ask private people to build roads and toll them so that they be complementing the efforts of government. Those are some of the things in the report. I hope and pray President Tinubu will find the time and the resources to implement as many of those programs as possible for the benefit of all our people.
Let me get your view quickly. You're a leader. You're a monarch in Ondo State. And Ondo State has been in the news for some reasons. The governor being away for medical leave and what is happening in the state. Those who are saying that this is affected governance in the state. As a leader in Ondo State, what would be your advice and what are your views on what is happening? Quickly, in 60 seconds, if you may.
Thank you very much. I, along with other leaders, have done what we thought should be done under the radar to deal with the matter. I'm no longer a politician, a partisan politician. The sort of leadership we exercise now is discreet leadership in consultation and conjunction with other leaders, particularly Papa R. Fashion, the leader of Refineries. We have done a lot to reach both parties and to effect whatever reconciliation that was possible. And where we did not achieve much, we made a plea to higher levels in Abuja, where some initiative came forth and has been able to douse the tension that was very clear, very present in the state. So we have done what we needed to do, and we shall continue to do so to ensure that the contending forces are reconciled for the peace, prosperity, and development of the state.
Interesting, and I hope that peace and development will come to Ondo State, and we wish Governor Akeredolu well, and we wish him good health. I'm totally out of time. I wish I could drag you into the conversation on party, the coalition ahead, and get your view on why the support Afenifere gained in the presidential election. But since you said you are no more into partisan politics, well, I mean, I just have 30 seconds because they are speaking to my ears right now that I need to run out of the studio. But I really wanted to know. I wish yeah.
Let me say that I think I want to say that with all humility that I was probably the first Nigerian political leader who formally and openly retired from politics, not resigned, retired voluntarily. I did so when I was over 80 years of age. I thought I had served my time, I paid my dues. Afenifere was the other name for the action group. It was a marketing name, a brand name for the political party. But when that party was banned in when the military came in, then there was a separation between a partisan political party and the Afenifere, which is the philosophy of welfareism. So, and therefore, it became a Yoruba welfareist organization. And because a Yoruba person was contesting the presidency along with others, Afenifere felt he should support one of his own members. In fact, not just a Yoruba man, a member of Afenifere for very many years. I think those are the reasons why Afenifere
Royal Majesty, we are totally out of time.
It does not mean that I thought it was the best in the whole world. Yes.
All right. Thank you for clearing the air on that. When I see you physically...
Thank you very much.
When I see you physically,
yes.
Yeah, I would like to learn why Harvard was trying to drag you from here.
Yes.
But unfortunately, I'm not able to get that view from you tonight. But what a Superman you have been. Over 80 years, 85 or thereabout you are right now. But thank you. You're looking very strong, and it's good to see you again. Your Royal Majesty, Oba Samuel Oluyemi Falae, the Oluwabu of Iluabu, and the Baba Oba of Akure Kingdom, our guest tonight on Politics Today. It's a pleasure having you tonight. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you very much, Sheung.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
I appreciate it. Yeah. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm sure Kimale. Bye-bye.